As part of the Sports Administration 2010 Follett Sports Business Forum, the Sports Administration family welcomes back Lee Dicklitch from the NCAA office. Currently, Lee Dicklitch works as one of the associate directors for the NCAA Men's Division I Basketball Championship. So, Lee, you graduated from Ohio University in 2002 in coaching education. Looking back on your career so far, what kind of impact did Ohio University play in helping you get to where you are today?
Yeah, Danny, I think just having the opportunity to be on campus here in the year that I had in Athens, it was just an unbelievable opportunity. I think I was working in the ticket office as a graduate assistant and then also taking classes while also being exposed to the sports administration program and some of that curriculum along with the coaching administration program. It just really gave me a nice opportunity to get a selection of many different topics, classes, and experiences that really benefited me and helped me define my focus for career after I left campus.
So looking back, you talked about the resources and the different exposures that you had while you were at Ohio University. Is there kind of a project that you look back on and you say, I wish I could have worked on a project that focused on this particular part of what you were interested in that could have helped you progress forward in your career?
Yeah, there was actually a project that I did work on as a part of the curriculum that was basically a customer satisfaction ticket-based online survey that we used with our Ohio Athletics season ticket holders in the sport of football. And that was an interesting project. I think we had information and I had access to the database of many of our season ticket holders at the time that were able to do some interesting research and try to delve into what Ohio athletics was all about and just rating what that satisfaction level was. So I think, and hopefully giving the athletic department some valuable feedback to improve their product. I think that was interesting, and then I was able to work with Jim Reese, who was on staff at the time, on the sports administration staff, and we were able to put that into a piece of work that we had hoped to get published, and I know that lost some traction. And I think we learned some things on just maybe the instrument tools and type of questions that maybe we should have or had asked. So it was a good learning experience, and I think that was a project that was a good benefit for me to kind of learn how the research process worked. And in my head, it was a possible option to use for further advancement if I decided to go back to school and maybe work on a PhD. So that was a good experience. And I think if I were to go down that road, continuing education, maybe at that level, or a thesis type or dissertation project, that could be something I could go back to and benefit from. So that was a good experience for me.
You mentioned in your project as you were working towards these goals that you were looking for a way to give back to the Ohio athletic department. Let's flip it around to the other side, and can you just talk about some of the value of networking and what role networking has played where you've given back to an organization initially and then kind of looked for a way to use that as an advantage and network to move forward in your career?
Yeah, I think without saying or stating the obvious, the Ohio network is incredibly impressive. I'll get asked by a lot of folks maybe that are trying to get into the business or continue to advance in the career in the sports industry. And, I think just the reputation of the alums in very different aspects. You've got the sports administration program, but you've also got the coaching education. You got the undergraduate program. I think is just a very dynamic area where there's just a lot of interest in the sports industry. So I think that's pretty unique. You've got this valuable area just to learn and to grow to what you'd like to focus on in your industry. Networking without question, that's going to play into it. And I think just the benefit, obviously, of having so many alums out in the business, it gets you an opportunity to learn more about what you might want to do. And, I think networking's great and all, but you still need to be, you need to take care of your business and be good and solid with simple things that are going to be needed to succeed in your job. And I think that's certainly important. So while the networking will be there and the doors will open, you still have to be able to sell yourself and, through your experiences and doing a great job.
Through that, though, you talked about how you still need to perform and deliver even with the opportunities through networking that you may have been given. Can you talk to us about a little bit some of the hurdles that you had to overcome or go through that were maybe a little bit just disruptive or more challenging than you originally had thought to get to where you are here at the NCAA office?
I think just getting the opportunity is probably the biggest piece of continuing to grow. I think you got to be ready. Obviously, once you get that chance, but your reputation is going to grow from the time that you're here and your previous experiences. So your name and your brand is always something that will continue to grow. And I think just being able to build upon that is incredibly important. But I think just that hurdle is just simply how you're going to differentiate yourself among all the competition. Because as we know, what might have passed to get your foot in the door 10 years ago is certainly not going to work now. So finding ways to continue to show yourself off differently, uniquely, whether it's through interviewing or building your resume, those are all important things that you got to continue to grow.
Continuing to branch off that topic, if you were to speak with some young men or women that were looking to break into the sports industry, what kind of advice would you give them to help them get that initial opportunity, or to help them to overcome those initial challenges of being young and inexperienced and still trying to break into this industry?
My personal viewpoint is it's incredibly important to not be above doing any sort of job. So, you're always going to be watched. I don't care if it's a volunteer, if it's an internship. You're always going to be judged. And to be able to have that influence and a positive experience with whoever you're working with or around is incredibly important. Thinking that you may be above a certain job is something that stands out to me. And I think just simply being able to stand up and assist in any way is incredibly important. You may feel like whatever you're working on isn't going to benefit you for your long-term goals, but at that distinct point, being able to continue to just bust your butt, do a good job with where you're at, is just going to open up more doors for you down the road.
Is there a specific example from your career that maybe you had to display a certain sense of humility, like you talked about, not being above the job that you're doing once you get into an organization? Just what's one example from your career that you had to take a step back and realize to yourself that you just needed to do what you needed to do to get to move forward?
Yeah, I think, from my background in operations and events, I think I've had many of those. And Danny, I'm looking at you chuckling right now because I know you've been there too yourself. And, I can distinctly remember after interning at the University of Wisconsin for a year, and then I was up for a more permanent, like a full-time position, and had to go through the actual process of being interviewed with some of the bosses there. And, I was trying to treat that as a professional atmosphere, and, something that certainly wasn't just a formality, but I can distinctly remember a colleague and coworker, certainly having fun with a picture that was taken of me. I believe ESPN Game Day was in town, and that was one of the events I was working on during the football season. And I think she managed to get her hands on a picture of me pushing a porta pot across a football field. And so the picture ends up on the video board, and the question is, do you really want to do this with your life? And I had to chuckle so hard because that was perfect right there. It was just, is that something that is in your job description that you see yourself doing? No, but it didn't matter because you were taking care of business, whatever it needed to be, to ensure that the event or whatever task you're working on at that particular time goes off successfully. So I think any job you're in, you're going to have moments like that you'd rather not be doing, whether it's picking up garbage, moving tables, things like that. I don't care what it is, but it goes back to what we were just talking about. I think not being above anything is going to serve anybody looking to get their foot in the door incredibly well, and be something that's folks will take note of that have been in organizations and see that. And that's going to give you the chance to be considered when opportunities do arise down the road.
That's great. Finally, Lee, before we wrap up here with your time in Athens, Ohio, what kind of trends do you see in your industry? What kind of trends do you see the industry capitalizing on in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think within collegiate athletics, to me personally, I think just the spending and economics of the budgets that we see with all of our member institutions, and just how it all works together. We see cuts, financial cuts of budgets all around the country, and I think at the national office that's incredibly important in how we address that. And our members are always asking us, how are we going to continue to grow? And you see sports cut, you see things like that we certainly, from a national office standpoint, don't want to see. So how do you address this boom of spending, whether it's coaches' salaries or big business that's kind of permeated from the sports of basketball and football, and this big business model? I think something that's got to be addressed. There's got to be more conversation, and there will be. I think in 10 years, when you stand back and look at where we are now, I think there's going to be some pretty big changes in the landscape. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.